I don't see how that's a feasible thing. The other thing I wanted to go back to is you were talking about the importance of the father figure in the nuclear family. And then I've seen some people post about when people say Black Lives Matter is a Marxist movement, and then people will say, well, how can it, like, it shouldn't be political because it should be about human matters or human lives or whatever, or human rights. There's a difference between Black Lives Matter, the organization, and Black Lives Matter, the movement, like with no caps and all caps. Mm-hmm. And on the Black Lives Matter organization website, they talk on the website. This is what we believe. They say, we believe that we need to dismantle the Western nuclear family and like dismantle the patriarchy.
Right.
And the Black community, from like you and most other people that I've talked to, is like, we need more fathers in the homes, and they don't want that. It's like, how does that help the Black community? It doesn't. Mm-hmm. The Black Lives Matter movement and all just the movement itself is like, yes, Black Lives Matter. Like, we're all behind that.
Right.
But the problem is when people are like, oh, it's a Marxist movement, they don't know, like, they just say it. They just say it because they just hear somebody on Fox say it or whatever.
So the public opinion, like the mainstream like narrative, so like that's what they go off of.
Right, but they don't understand why. And so when people go and have the discussion of why, they're like, well, it's just Marxist. I heard it on Fox. And then like the people on the other side are like, well, why are you getting political? It's like, okay, one, there's an actual distinction that they don't know about. So when they go spouting off about it, that is communist, it's like they just sound crazy because they don't actually understand the history of what's going on.
I think
people on the other side don't make the distinction either,
right?
Because they just think that this person is just a racist conservative, and so they just yell. And then again, they're just yelling at each other.
Right. So that's like the solution. That's the cycle I was talking about. It's like the constant like feud of like trying to like you're debating and you're arguing. I'm sorry, just to reply. You're not doing it just to listen. Like, you know, like, and that people, when I do this, like on Facebook, like I get into a lot of debates and arguments on Facebook, and people think, oh, you just love to argue. It's like, no, like I'm genuinely like curious about like what the other person like thinks and like what's wrong and what's right about it. Yeah. And like, I want to hear what they have to say. So like people are like, oh, like all you do is just like, look, like I just like finding common ground. Like I don't like argue with people just to like, you know, just to piss them off or like, you know, just to make them mad or think I'm like better than them. That's like, that's not like what I'm trying to accomplish. But yeah, like back to your point, I kind of want to reel that off into like accountability. Like when it comes to like those officers that what they did to George Floyd, they should all be like prosecuted. There's like none of them should have been like that. And that's another thing. It's like they got put out like on bail. Like how'd they get that money? Because it was placed so high, so I was like, where the hell did they get all that money from? Was it close to $1 million? Yeah, it was like close to. I think it was a little bit more, but I was like, where are they getting this money from? Like, is it like people donating it, or is it something like in the system they just like they discreetly give out and they don't like disclose that information? So it's like
a separate budget line for the police.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I was just like, when it comes to the justice system, we need to have people that are unbiased and they're objective in their jobs. Like they don't play any games. Like they don't play into any type of system. Like racism's thrown out the window, like privilege thrown out the window. All that stuff's like whatever you did, and if it goes against the law, you have to receive that consequence for it, depending on the situation and what happened during that time. So like that's another thing that needs to be addressed too within like the federal like judicial system and all the other ones. You know.
And that was kind of the intent behind the Supreme Court judges being there for life. So they were supposed to transcend whatever party was in power. Right. And it hasn't seemed to work out that as well as was intended, at least recently, anyways. But that was, I feel like the intent behind why they did that. Right. I didn't mean to cut you off. So
no, you're good. Yeah. But that's. Going back to when I have arguments with people, like my perspective when we first started talking, I think a lot of my perspective personally has changed a lot when it comes to certain issues. So like I'm not as like conservative because like when I know there's like a lot of conservatives like that I know or like I'm friends with that they lack a lot of empathy for people. Yeah. And I know a lot of them because like first and foremost, like I'm a Christian, so like that kind of plays to my conservative like viewpoint. Right. And but like as I get older and as I progress and I kind of learn new things and like you know learn about other people's perspective, like you kind of have to change. So like if you're wrong about something on like in an argument or debate, it's okay to be wrong. Like like you can address that and say, okay, like you know I'm sorry I didn't know that, it's something new I learned. So like there's people that take that like as you're like of you being wrong, and they attack you for it. So it's just like, so like, oh, you're just stupid, you don't know what you're talking about. It's just like, no, it's like, I just never knew that. Like, I wasn't aware. It's like, this is like taking it. So like, you taking in new material and like learning about other people's perspectives, that shouldn't be a negative thing. So like, that's something that needs to be kind of like put out the window too when it comes to like change of perspective or like, you know, having a disagreement. So it's like, the point is to find common ground and like to have equity and equality for people. And I think a lot of people are starting to wake up like to that now. There's like, I'm starting to see like a movement of just like, you know, like, especially with the Black Lives Matter, like there's an organization and there's a movement. So like I feel like there's the movement right now. It's just like they're tired of like seeing this stuff going on, and they're not even just mad at the police. Like they're mad at like the politicians and the constituents that are in place. Like they're livid. So it's just like, what are we going to do to change this? And there's like the organization saying like, oh no, just get rid of the cops and that'll solve the issue. It's just like
no,
that's like the Marxist movement, but like that Marxist movement or that's within like the Black Lives Matter organization is kind of like hijacking like the
intentions of the movement itself.
The intention of the movement that's like trying to like create like, you know, a window, not even a window, just like erase all of like the negative history that's been oppressing people. That's including like the constituents, the racism, the disparity, inequity and the inequality that's been going on for the past like 5-6 decades. So it's like they're trying to get rid of that. So I put whatever happened after Minneapolis with the George Floyd and they had the riots.
Right.
These are people that are like the people that are looting and rioting, like all this stuff, and like all these innocent people's like businesses and stuff like that. These are the people that are hijacking that movement, and the police are retaliating against like peaceful protesters. So like you have people like just like peacefully protesting, like walking down the street, right? And like then all of a sudden like you see like some dude like come up with like bricks, start crashing windows. And I see videos of people like, yo, like, you know, what are you doing? Like stop! Like why are you doing that? Yeah. Like we're trying to like have people protest. You're like, no, like, you know, screw the police, like this and that, like Antifa, that. So like it's just like. It's like people aren't seeing that. It's like it's getting hijacked, and it's like making them look bad. And that's the narrative. Like on Fox News, they're like, "Oh, these protesters are like destroying everything." It's like no, it's like those are the rioters, and like people are like they're doing that for their own gain. It's like they're only doing that just for them. They don't care about Black Lives Matter. If they did, they would have been peacefully protesting like hand in hand with those people right next to them, and like going down to like the courthouse or wherever they are to make their point.
Yeah, and then the cops see that and they tear gas the whole group.
Right.
And then CNN goes, cops attacked everybody, which is like, it's true, but they didn't show the person who smashed the window. So on Fox, you have all of them are smashing windows. On CNN, you have none of them are smashing windows.
Right.
And it's like, no,
so that's
somewhere in the middle.
That's the divisive narrative like we were talking about. It's just like, that's got to stop too. It's just like, you have all these like major news outlets that are like causing so much division, especially with the whole like COVID stuff going on. They're just like saying like, well, the spikes are going up because, you know, all the Trump supporters are going to rallies. Well, it's like, okay, so how is it the fact that magically Trump supporters can get, you know, they're the cause for spikes, but people can go out and peacefully protest, and they're not responsible for, you know, contributing to the spikes. But at the same time, it's like the death rate's going down. It's like declining like really rapidly, and that's not being put on the news either. So it's like they're trying to like, I feel like they're trying to put a lot of like fear mongering right now in a division and trying to kind of like keep people on their toes. Yeah. So just to kind of distract them from like, you know, what needs to be actually talked about and addressed. So
and it sucks too because Trump has done not a good job at all of handling COVID as far as public perception and like, hey, we're gonna get through this together. Like this is what we're gonna do. Instead, he's off talking about like, don't wear a mask, turning like everything like that's turned into a political issue. And he's off rambling about random drugs that may or may not work.